Hello everyone, this is Sunniva.
And this is Johannes.
And you are watching Board Gaming Rumblings.
And today we are taking a look at War of the Ring, the card game. A new game by Ares Games, designed by Ian Brody.
It plays from 2 to 4 players in 90 plus minutes.
Plus minutes. War of the Ring, the card game, is a card game. I would like to say, it's not really a card game version of War of the Ring. We haven't played War of the Ring, but that's what we understand. Ian Brody has designed games like Quartermaster General, which are a game we also haven't played, but we heard he has taken elements of those designs and put them into this game. So if you like his other designs, you already probably will be interested in this game. If this is your first time on the channel, before we go into anything else, is there something you can do that makes us happy and helps us and helps you?
Yes, you can subscribe to it. It's a button down there and it makes us happy, so please do that.
Yeah, and it helps you because you will then get to see more videos of Norwegian people talking English about board games.
Yes.
War of the Ring. The theme is obvious here. It's Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
It's based on the trilogy of books called Lord of the Rings. And in this game, you will either be playing as the Shadows or the Free Peoples, and you will be trying to win the different wars and battles. Basically, the game is playing through the books, kind of,
story.
But kind of it is and kind of it isn't, but we're going to talk about that later. But basically, there's always going to be two kind of battlegrounds out on the table. There's going to be one that's called a battleground, and then there's going to be a path. And the path is basically what takes the Frodo with the ring and his people through everywhere from Bag's End and all the way to Mordor at the end, and to showing
Spoiler
that
alert.
if you haven't read the books or seen the films, it's too late. And the battlegrounds are basically different battles that happens throughout the books. These are not kind of in an order. So those kind of if you are a super Lord of the Rings fan, you can be but that has happened after that. It's not that thematic. It's not like story mode. It's not forcing you to do things. It's just that way. The way you play the game is that you will be playing cards. It's a card-driven game. All is cards and cards. It's all. You'll be playing cards either to your reserve, which is kind of like the cards you can play later, or you will play cards to the different battles to help that battle in different ways. Cards have different attacks. They have different defenses, and also there's different specific symbols for path combat and the battleground combat. And then most of the cards, especially the character cards and some events, have special abilities that you can do to kind of change things up and move things around like you do in normal trading card games and Magic the Gathering, Ashes, all of these kind of games. We have dueling card games, basically. And that's what you're going to do. Then at the end of the round, when everybody passes after each other, you're going to then see who wins the different battles. You're going to get some points. If one player has 10 points more than the other, then you're going to end the game and that player wins. Or else you're going to play all the way through to 9 pots. And then the team with the most points is going to be the winner of War of the Ring, the card game. I hope that made some sense. It's a game about cards and war.
And a ring, yes.
There's a ring in there.
I think this game looks amazing.
Yeah.
I love the artwork in this game. It's looking a lot like the artwork, like how the characters and things look in the movies, but it has taken some free style arrangement as well. So Legolas doesn't look exactly like Legolas, for example.
Legolas.
But you kind of see oh, this is Gollum. I can recognize him from the movies.
Yeah, but it's not really. I don't think it's taken from the movies. More like the lore. There's so much Lord of the Rings that isn't the movies, but the old animated movie and all of that. But just the artwork is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it really draws you into the theme and into the game.
Absolutely.
It also has
a rulebook.
Yes, it does. It looks like this. It's a small rulebook, but it is also 20 pages long. But the thing about this game is that it's not very complicated, and that to play it, the rules are not very complicated, and that will understand in this rulebook. It took me some of the concepts I needed to read. Check this great of all it's a great way to see how all the cards work, and that I had to use a couple of times while reading the rulebook to say, okay, but what is you talking about now? I'll go back here. Oh, okay, that makes sense now. So really a great way to learn the rule, and it's learning you the trilogy mode of the game, which is playing through the trilogy scenario, playing through the trilogy of books, and then at the end it has different scenarios. Depending on if you play the game with 2, 3, or 4 players, you can play different ways to play.
Cool.
We're gonna talk more about that later. But I feel like the rulebook is very well written. It has a great glossary at the end, which we really almost never use because the keywords in this game are very simple to be a game of this caliber. Like
That's
it's
true.
not like Magic or Ashes where you have like, oh, what was this flying again? How does that work? Like it's a very simple keyword wise, really good rulebook, easy to learn game.
The game also has a really great play rate.
Oh, yeah.
It explains all the different things and phases. I really love the play rate in this game.
Yeah, it's also double-sided, so it has the different modes on it. So if you play one mode, you can turn it over and get all the different changes for that mode as well. Which, again, made us never, almost not a single time, check anything in the rulebook when we played, which is great for any game.
We have played this game 2 players head-to-head, and we have also played 4 players in team mode. I've enjoyed both of them. The first time we played, it was with 4 players. It was a learning game, so it took us 3.5 hours. But we had so much fun during those 3.5 hours. I didn't really mind. With 2 players, it has taken us less time, about 2 hours.
Not 4, 2.
2.
Yeah, first of all, like this is something I never do in any game, but this game is dripping with theme, like somebody would say they cared about theme. I don't know what that means, but it has a theme. It has a great theme. I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings. I'm not like a huge fan. I mean, we haven't seen a new series yet. I want to do it, but I haven't prioritized it, mostly because of board games. But there's just like, I like the lore of Lord of the Rings. So there's many things that you remember and you'll be like, oh, and it makes sense now that this character goes here. And especially one of the people we played with the first time was more into Lord of the Rings. And he was like, oh, I have to play this character now because that makes sense in this battle. And there's so much stuff here to like with the theme. I don't think you need to like Lord of the Rings to enjoy the game. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that the theme is important? Like, do you feel like you need to have, like, let's say you sit down and play this with somebody who doesn't know what Lord of the Rings is, so probably you're either a kid or you lived under a rock.
Yeah, I think that I would still find the game interesting and exciting, but I feel like I have extra fun because I know, like, oh, this character is cool and I recognize him and I think it's cool if he fights this person.
Yeah.
And I think that ups it a little tad.
And I also feel like that makes it easier to, because with all the kind of these kind of games, it's good to know the cards, and it makes it easier to remember. Oh, Boromir, oh, he does that. It's easier than to remember, oh, this random people, I don't remember what
Well,
it's
but
called.
it's like that, it doesn't make very much sense, like the character of, for
No,
example...
but I feel like it might...
Of course, Frodo draws a card. He does
but
that
I
in the movies.
I will look at like, oh, Bilbo, I remember Bilbo, I can see that.
Yeah, it's easier.
His
I
picture,
agree.
I don't remember that if he's in my reserve, I can cycle him to draw 3 cards,
true.
like that, those kind of things. And let's talk a bit about the card play in this game, because card play is like the biggest part of this game. The card play is very clever. Did I say card play? I'm not sure. Card play is clever card play. Sorry, my brain is now going to say card play more. It's horrible.
Now it sounds like you're saying car play.
Card play, which is a thing you
Another
have with
thing.
iPhone. But card play, or curd, if you're from somewhere else in the world, Rodney, is very interesting. You have a hand of card. Depending on which player you are, you're going to have more or less of them. Usually, if you're the shadow player, you're going to sit with a bunch of cards, and if you're free people, you're going to sit with tiny cards. They're the same size. But if you play a card, you have to cycle a card, basically.
Yes.
So in this game, you kind of have 2 discard piles. You have the cycle pile, where it's stuff, which is kind of what you would call a discard pile, because when you're empty, but it's face down, so nobody knows what's there. And then you have an elimination pile, or which...
Forsaken pile.
Yeah, or it's called eliminated, actually.
Okay,
and
yeah.
then forsake is just one way to eliminate it. I think, if I'm now wrong, you can laugh. Which goes out of the game.
Yeah.
So most of the time you're going to cycle to play cards, and then other effects will make you forsake or eliminate cards. I really love this kind of... I want to play all these cards, but I can't.
Yeah, it's so hard decisions. It's very easy gameplay, hard decisions.
Yeah.
Because everything that I have in my hand, sometimes nothing is useful. Because if it is like a Rohan battleground, I can't go there with something else, like the elves or something theme. Or if it is like in path, if we are in the bag end, like path 1, I can't go there with like a later character, for example, Legolas or Gimli, because they are not there yet.
That's true.
So I think that is very cool and thematic. But what I was supposed to say, when you have a lot of cards that you want to play, it's so hard to be like, oh, I want to. Then I have to discard this card that I really want to play, and I have so few cards, and then I can play this. And everything that you do really depends on what the other player or the other team does, because you're always like reacting to, or trying to at least, you want to react to what the other players are doing.
Another part of the game and the card play is that there are specific cards you can play to specific places.
Yes.
Which ends up because you have these paths, for example, on a card it will say, oh, you can play it in path 4 to 6, for example. And if there's not path 4 to 6, which is usually like the round 4 to 6, not always, but usually, you can't place them. In there, you might then place them in the battleground if you want to, or you can keep them. And sometimes it might feel in this game, especially in the team mode, that you can't do anything. And the first time you play, I feel like if you play this the first time, either in the duel mode or the trilogy mode, you're going to be like, oh no, but I cannot do anything here, and you have won that one. But I don't feel that's really a negative, but because that's going to be, there's so many ways, there's so many chances to score points, that then later there's going to be a place where I can then do something and you might not be able to counter that. And I really find that interesting. I really like the fact that you can't just play everything everywhere, because that would make the game very not interesting, because then you can just do whatever you wanted all the time. And it would be very hard for somebody to plan, or to be like, oh, I know now that it's going to be harder for you to react here. I'm going to talk more about why that later. But yeah, I really enjoy that part. And it's a thing that you might look at as a negative the first time, but it's really not a negative, because there's such a long game and you go through so many things.
Yeah, and then you think, oh, maybe then you can save all the cards for next round and hope that you can play in the. You can't, because you have this carryover limit. That is, if you have like more than, for example, 2 cards, you have to do an action. You can't pass.
That's true.
You can't keep those cards, and then you might want to, for example, play them down to the reserve.
Yeah.
So they will maybe sometimes give you some passive abilities that are really helpful, or you can play them then. You know that. Okay, next round there's going to be path 5, then he's ready to go. And also this pausing action is really important in this game.
Yeah, pausing is basically the best thing
you can do.
You can pause if you have less cards than the other player or the team, if you're playing the team game. Then if we're playing the team game and we're on a team and the other 2 players has like 4 and 5 cards, if I have 3 cards in my hand, I can then pause. Or if you have your carryover limit, which is 2 or can be higher. And pausing is most of the time the best thing you can do, which seems weird, but it is in these kind of games. It's always better to react than to be the player who gets reacted to.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I like somebody on BGG was like, oh, isn't that boring then, because a game where the best thing is to pause, that sounds horrible. And then Ian, the designer, he came in and he said like, but it doesn't change up how much you play, just when you play.
Yeah.
And it's better to play to react to something, so you can like have the upper edge, than to be reacted to.
Yeah, it's always a bad thing to show your opponent what resources you have.
Yeah.
Because that means that they can be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to win this anyways. I might as well save my resources. Oh, I know that, okay, you're almost empty of cards, but because you played so much, then I can safely put all of my resources there too and counter you. So now that I know what you were doing, so that was really interesting. When all players has paused like continuously, then the round is over, and when to like stop and save your resources also is an important part of this game.
I also love the fact that if anybody wondered if Sunniva is a Eurogamer by heart, she's calling now attack power, defense, and all that resources.
Yes.
In this highly thematic game, it's still, I'm going to play some resources over here to get it. Maybe that's how you do it to not feel like I'm attacking you.
Like, it's just like everything, what you have.
Yeah.
It's like power.
And let's continue that by talking a bit about the difference between the Shadow and the Free Peoples, because they're very different to play with. If you play the team game, then you're going to have like half of those cards. If you play the duel mode, which you also played, you're going to put those cards together and have a 60 card deck. One thing that is like highly thematic and really, really cool is that, as we already said, the Free People is going to have fewer cards most of the time, and they can kind of hide what they want to do. But if you have 10, 11 cards as the Shadow People, you cannot, it's horrible to play all of those at Battleground, so you're going to build up a reserve. So one game that we played, I always had like this huge army of Nazguls, and all of them
Ready
had
to go.
abilities.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I had them in the reserve, and they said like, if in the reserve, you can cycle to do this, you can cycle to do this. So it was always like do I want to cycle it to get this action, or do I want to place it now out there and try to get those more points? And that is a super cool way to play, basically, but you're showing everything you have. So it's easier for the Free People's player or players to see that, but it's really no point of me to go into this battleground, because you have 3 of that army there that you can just put out and take that army or take that battleground and win it from me. So it's more like, it's kind of the same feeling that when you play Star Wars Rebellion, where you have like the Empire having all this stuff all the time, and the Rebels just have like this guerrilla tactics to like boom, boom.
It also
boom.
makes thematic sense that you can't hide an army. You see it.
That's true.
It's there. I think that it was fun playing both the Free People and the Shadow People.
Shadow People.
Yeah, Shadow People. Well, they felt different, but they both felt fun. I also like both the 4-player and the 2-player game.
Yes.
In the the 4-player game.
Yeah, the trilogy scenario, basically. You can play that with 2 as well.
Yes. The trilogy scenario, you have divided the decks so that sometimes I see that, okay, I can't really contribute to the battleground.
Yeah.
I hope that the other player on my team can do it. Then you have to talk a little in code, because everything that you say, you have to say in front of the other team. And sometimes you can even bluff a little, be like, okay, I can make something happen there. You don't need to worry. And maybe you're just like, no, I can't do anything.
Nothing.
Just bluffing. Or you can do the other way around. I think for me, I like the trilogy with 4 players more.
Okay.
Just because that I like the team feeling of it.
Yeah.
That was fun.
We only got to play the team version once, and I want to play that more. But for me, like, I'm so used to playing these 2-player duel games, so I really enjoy that. You can also play the trilogy mode with less players. But then, like, let's see, we wanted to play the trilogy mode with 2, then we have to play double-handed. So we have to have 2 hands. I don't care for that. So just mash it together, make it like maybe a bit more random, like you don't have in the other mode. I'm always going to have Mordor cards, because there's only Mordor in the one deck, and I'm probably going to have like a few of the other cards here in the other one, but it balances itself really well out. One thing I want to talk about is that these games, which are war games, I don't feel they are not scripted, but like some of these games, like I heard about, like in Trial Struggle, if you don't do this thing because it happened in real life, then you're going to lose. That's not going to happen there. I don't know if that's correct, but understand what I mean. And that's not going to happen here. But the way the game is that the game is going to start easiest for the Free People, and they're going to get points, and you have to, as the Shadows, just try to take points away from them.
To not lose instantly.
Yeah, because you lose if somebody gets 10 points more than you. And I heard many times that happening in the first like 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah.
It didn't happen the times we played, but then it's going to be harder for the Free Peoples in the end.
Because you're closer to Mordor.
It makes really thematic sense, and it also makes it for a very interesting game. 2 of the times we played, both teams had the exact same number of points going into the last round of the game, which makes it a very tight game and super duper fun.
This is a game that keeps getting better, I feel like, because you get more knowledge of the cards and you see more opportunities. You know when when to hold back and when to push through. I think there's a lot of variability in this game because you can play, especially like if you divide the stacks into four, you can play four different play styles, and they feel very fresh. And even though we played like the same thing now a couple of times, I feel like I still haven't explored everything. Sometimes you will cycle a lot of cards that you really don't use, so it can look very different the next time you play it.
And this is a game. Like, this is one of those games.
It's a game.
Where if we were to sit down and play this game like 25 times, we would play it extremely different. For one reason, and that is not only because you know, of course, because you played it many times, but not only because you know all the cards in your deck by hand, in your head, but you know all the other players. So you know kind of, you might have that card. It's not that huge in this game, but it's always good to know what the other players have. Like if you play Magic, for example, and I know your deck, I know I don't really think I can play this card now because you haven't played your 2 copies of that card, which means you can cancel my card, and you can and then you can bluff it. So you're like, but I have to try it. Oh no, it happened, and all of these things. It's just a game. I feel like if you are 4 people or 2 people, I think for me it works as good in both of those ways. I would not be sad to only play 2-player all the time. It is a game that's just going to get better and better that way. So let's talk a bit about the weight. And who's it for?
I think this is a medium kind of game.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it has a lot of depth. So much, it's so deep. But like rules-wise and mechanisms-wise, this is completely doable.
Very simple. You play cards.
Yeah. So I think this is in the medium genre.
Yeah, because like the rules are medium light, but the gameplay is complex, and it is getting more complex the more meta you get and the more people understand and knows the game. Obviously, this is for people who, like me, who have played a lot of Magic the Gathering or played a lot of duel games like that and enjoy them. Yes, usually you do not like them, but we're going to talk more about that in the final thoughts. And if you like
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I think like if you enjoy, or if you have enjoyed other games by the designer, and I think you'll like this one as well. So let's hear your final thoughts for Lord of the Rings, the card game.
My final thoughts for War
of the Ring.
Warring of the card game.
Yes.
Is that I think it's super fun. I think that because you have won all the times we have played.
Yes.
So I shouldn't like it.
4 out of 10.
Yeah, but I think it's really fun. I will, when we play this game onwards, I want to keep it in a collection. I thought it was great. I would want to play it with 4 players, but it was very simple to sit down, just the 2 of us, and play around. It's not the fastest game in this genre, so you have to have some time. But the positive is that it is so deep and it has so much. It has so much in it, you know. But I think this is a great game, one that I really enjoyed, especially the first time when we, as a team, explored it. That was super fun. I'm going to rate this at 8.5. It's like,
that is crazy.
It's up there,
and it made me so happy to find like this kind of game that you actually like, even with 2 players.
You just have to let me win a little bit, or else it would fall.
I'm not gonna let you win,
no,
but you almost won the last time. It was so close. I think this is a fantastic game. I think that there is so much to explore, so much depth, like very simple gameplay, but like all of these kind of card games, there's just so much meat to the bone. I think that for me, that the theme actually has something here, which it usually never does in any game. I do think like I'm drawn to it more because it's Lord of the Ring than just like a World War II thing, which I don't really care for.
Generic fantasy, for example.
Yes. So I'm a huge fan of this game. I think it's a fantastic game. Cool. I like really everything about it. I don't really mind all of the the randomness is there, but it just makes it variable because then next time the cards are going to come in a different order and you have to play in a different way. It's highly tactical, doing the best with what you have, and if 2 rounds goes horrible, probably the 3rd one's going to go better. Just like so good. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Cool.
Fantastic game. That is War of the Ring. That is this video. If you are still here and you have not subscribed, please do so. Now!
Yeah, it's a button down there. It's fun and it's free. Makes us happy. Like this. And if you want to do something that's not free, you can.
Go to patreon.com/boardgamingramblings and support us there. And that is the actual end of the video.
Woo.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Johannes.
I'm Sunniva.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings, and bye-bye.